Hello, DeMatha Nation, and welcome back to our 75th anniversary DeMatha Speaker Series. My name is Ben Fleri, DeMatha class of 2011, and current staff member here at DeMatha. I'm joined today by staff member Connor Glowacki and our guest, Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer and 1973 graduate of DeMatha, Mr. Adrian Dantley. Now, with the Tokyo Olympics fast approaching, and 2012 grad Jeremy Grant being a member of this year's U.S. Olympic men's team, we found it fitting to ask Adrian Dantley, who was the leading scorer of the 1976 U.S. gold medal squad, to join us today. So apart from winning gold in Montreal, Adrian had a stellar NBA career, which led to his induction into the Basketball Hall of Fame in April 2007. Throughout his years at DeMatha, the Stags won 116 games with only 7 losses. And as a senior at DeMatha, Adrian received All-American honors. After DeMatha, Adrian attended the University of Notre Dame and was consensus first-team All-American in the 74-75 and 75-76 season and ranked second on Notre Dame's all-time scoring list. Dantley was selected 6th overall by the Buffalo Braves in the 76 NBA draft and won NBA Rookie of the Year. During his incredible 15-year NBA career, he played for the Pacers, Lakers, Jazz, Pistons, Mavericks, Bucks, as well as playing 1 year in Milan. AD is a 6-time NBA All-Star, 2-time All-NBA second team, 2-time NBA scoring champ, and as well as his number 4 jersey retired by the Utah Jazz, just to name a few of his achievements. He's led the NBA in scoring twice, and during his career, he scored over 23,000 points while having a career scoring average of 24.3 points per game. Now, with that, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce Hall of Famer Mr. Adrian Dantley. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, before we get started, just kind of want to ask how you've been doing and how life's been treating you kind of since the start of this pandemic. I know it's been kind of adjustment for everyone across the globe, but just how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm healthy. Family members are healthy. Didn't have any problems with the COVID. So just now getting out of it and things starting to be a little normal. And I think that's good for everybody.
Of course. Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, the Tokyo Olympics are right around the corner here starting next week. And, we have a 2012 DeMatha grad on the Olympic team, Jeremy Grant. So I just wanted to kind of get, maybe your experiences from being a part of that gold medal team in 1976. Maybe, what the practices were like, the atmosphere. What was that whole kind of experience like?
When I was in the Olympics, a lot different than it is now. Right now, when they just go out and pick 15 guys for the Olympic basketball team. But when I was in college, we had to try out for the Olympic team. We had like 100 college players at the University of North Carolina, and we just competed. And the biggest memory I have about that practices were that we had to run a mile on a certain time, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I think about 50 guys didn't make their mile time in the morning. So Coach Smith had an easier time, cutting players because they couldn't make the time in the mile run. But then after that, we just competed and for a week, and then they had the process where they picked 12 players to be on the Olympic team.
Awesome. AD, thanks for joining us again. Could you share with us some of your experiences playing under Morgan Wooten at DeMatha and how Coach Wooten ultimately prepared you for the success you had in Notre Dame and in the NBA?
Well, best thing that ever happened to me was to attend DeMatha, be coached under Morgan. I was always ahead of all the guys because I learned all the fundamentals at DeMatha. When I went to Notre Dame, I was ahead of all that freshman class when they came in there. The coach had described certain things, but I knew all those things because I learned it at Morgan, going to the basketball camps up on Military Road, St. John's, and I was well prepared. The same fundamentals that I used in high school, that's what I used in college and the pros. Everybody's familiar with the famous, 6-inch step, strong side drive. And that's what I pretty much did my whole career and pretty successful on just a couple moves. So that's where it all started, and learn a lot on the Morgan.
Thank you, Adrian. So we'd like to open up questions to the audience here. So while guys are indicating if they want a question, Adrian, before we get into the audience, I was reading an article kind of about your decision making into coming to DeMatha, and it read that James Brown was kind of a big factor in your decision making. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit and how you kind of ended up coming to DeMatha?
Well, I live right down the street from James Brown. I heard about him being a great basketball player at DeMatha High School. I thought the guys were talking about James Brown. I thought they were talking about James Brown, the singer, when he was in the alley playing basketball. So then, I end up seeing him play at DeMatha, and then the following summer, I used to see him played on the playgrounds against him. And then everybody in the neighborhood wanted to be like, everybody wanted to be like James Brown. And I can remember when he chose and went to Harvard, and I got together with all the guys, and I said, "You guys think you want to go to Harvard like James Brown?" Got a big laugh out of that. But he was everybody's idol back then in the '60s.
Terrific. Thank you, AD. So now we'll open it up. I think Joe Connolly. Joe, if you want to unmute your mic and ask AD a question. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ben. And AD, appreciate you sharing time with us today. This is great. You talk about working Metropolitan area basketball camp. One of the things I vividly remember is Morgan making us referee games. And I'd never been so humbled and opened my eyes on how hard that is. I read somewhere that you're refereeing, or at least you were at one time. What made you referee ball games, and can you tell us what that did for you? What was that experience like?
Well, I'm still refereeing now. I refereed like 2 games over at DeMatha a couple of days ago. DeMatha has a summer league. I've been doing it now for about 8 years. I still get on the commissioner asking when he's going to let me referee at DeMatha varsity basketball game, but they won't let me referee any games. I don't know why. They say it's a conflict of interest. But I referee all, 10 and under, 12 and under, girls, high school, boys, varsity. I refereed everywhere except for the DeMatha League. They keep saying it's a conflict of interest, so I keep getting on them. I refereed to 70 and older, but I enjoy doing it. It keeps me in shape. I really enjoy refereeing the kids 12 and under. I can kind of look at a player and say, hey, he's going to be pretty good when he gets to high school. So I really enjoy that. Also enjoy refereeing the girls' game because they got more fundamentals than guys. They're just not running them down, shooting threes, jacking up threes. They really running plays and using the fundamentals. So it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy doing it, and good to meet a lot of people for all the games that I've been refereeing around the metropolitan area.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, for your question. AD, next question looks like from Mark Houston. So, Mark, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hi, I didn't have too much of a question, but I'm a DeMatha alum, class of '06. Thanks for having me up on the mic. And my question, AD, is with the change in name, image, and likeness, especially in your time as a college athlete, what changes do you perceive now with student athletes being able to obtain sponsorship marketing deals, and how might that affect perhaps DeMatha athletes moving forward?
Who's going to get the money? Just the basketball players? You're going to? I don't know how that's going to work. How's that going to work with, baseball teams on the college level, lacrosse and all those things? But I think it's a good thing. I think that the athletes should get something participating in college sports because you do have the universities making a ton of money, and so I think it's the right thing to do, and it'd be interesting to see what happens with this going forward.
Thank you, Mark. Let's go to Emmanuel Williams, if you want to unmute your mic and ask AD a question.
Hey, thank you for having me, and thank you for taking my question. So AD, my question is, was Georgetown University ever on your radar when choosing a college? And also, did you read or listen to John Thompson's autobiography? And if so, what was your thoughts? Thank you.
I have not gotten the book yet. I am going to get it. Coach Thompson was on the Olympic basketball team. He was the assistant coach under Dean Smith. At that time when Coach Thompson recruited me, that was his first year at Georgetown, my last year at DeMatha. So he was just getting his program started. If I had stayed home, I probably would have went to Maryland. But bottom line is I just wanted to go away from, get away from home, and Notre Dame ended up being a, pretty good pick for me. So that was it. But Coach Thompson, had great respect for him. Heard a lot of stories when he was the assistant coach on the Olympic team, and also when I see him out in the public. So great man, great guy. But the bottom line is I just wanted to go just to get away from home from school.
Hey, Emmanuel, thanks for your question. AD, our next question is from John Kitchings. Go ahead, John, and unmute your mic.
All right. Thank you, Stags. Hey, AD, I have a question for you. I came into DeMatha in 74, left in 78. When we came in, you and Kenny Carr walked water. That's all they talked about. You were already gone. Who was the big names when you came in? You already talked about JB, but I'm kind of curious about that. But that's all we heard about was Dantley and Carr. Then my final question is speak on Isaiah Thomas, since you're here with family and we can just be honest. And that's it. But that's it. Thanks, guys. Class of 78.
Well, when I came to DeMatha, the top player was Ray Height. He was a great point guard, and he was the first team All Metropolitan. When I was a freshman, he was a senior. He went to North Carolina, I think, for a while, maybe Virginia Tech. I think his brother went to North Carolina. Great guy. A guy by the name of Ricky Hunt was there. He was like 2 years ahead of me. Donald Willis was a player who was a senior when I was a freshman. He attended Georgetown, but James Brown had gone at that time. As far as the Isaiah Thomas situation, it's amazing. That's been going on for like 35 years. When I travel, people ask me about it, but everybody know about that story. So bottom line is, I got traded and went on to another team.
Thank you, John, for your question. Let's go to Greg Christel.
Hey, AD, thanks for having me. And my question, my question is, when you played in the NBA, I know you played with the Pistons and a few other teams, and the physicality of the league back then was a lot different, especially the bad boy Piston era and all that. How do you think the league would change if the physicality was the same today, with the shooters and the guys coming through the lane, without getting hit, and just kind of the lot more fouls being called, a little more, soft stuff. How do you feel about the league today if it was a little more brutal like it was back then? Would the shooters and Steph Curry's of the world still be running around like they are?
Well, today's game is a lot different than when we played. It's a lot more physical. As you saw in the playoffs last night, the referees were letting the guys play a little bit more. That's the way it pretty much was during the whole year. And even in the playoffs, it would be a lot tougher. But it would be interesting seeing the guys play today, play in the era when I played. But, it's just different. You really can't compare it. It's a lot more physical. Give you an example. If a guy drove in the lane when we played, if you foul a guy, you just get 2 shots. Now, if you foul a guy, you might get thrown out the game and you might get fined, $20,000, $30,000. So that's a big difference. I can remember when I was a rookie and I drove into the lane, my first 2 games against Bob Lanier and Clifford Ray, they almost took my head off and told me, hey, don't come down here in my territory or you're going to get hurt. After that, I stopped going in there. I was just pulling up for mid-range because it was a lot more physical back then.
Thanks, Greg, for your question. AD, our next question is from Chris McMains.
Hey, Adrian, thanks a lot for taking your time to do this. I'm sure we're all enjoying it. I understand you almost went to North Carolina. You were ready to commit after visiting down in Chapel Hill, and Coach Wooten encouraged you to, I guess, take your trip to Notre Dame, and you ended up liking that a lot better and went to school there, had a great career. But then you got to play for Dean Smith in the '76 Olympics. So was wondering, what was it like playing for him, and did you learn anything specifically from him that you carried over in your career?
Oh, when I was on the Olympic, I went to his camp every summer, and that's where I was, supposed to go. But after watching him during the year and hearing about players have to wait their turn to play their junior, senior year, and the four corners and so forth, I just thought it was just good for me not to, attend North Carolina. Coach Smith, great coach, but they had a different style, and I just thought it was better for me to attend Notre Dame. I didn't think I was going to go to Notre Dame. Coach Phelps kept bugging me like, come on, just come out and visit. Just come out and visit one day. We have a history of Washingtonian players going to Notre Dame, and they didn't even have to do anything. When I visited Notre Dame and I came down that street, I knew the history of Notre Dame. I saw that Golden Dome, and I said, yeah, I think I want to go here. So I was already ready when I visited the school. But North Carolina was there. Maryland was there. Indiana was there. But ended up choosing Notre Dame.
Thanks, Chris. Before we get to Conrad's question, I have a comment here for you, Adrian, from Tom Hogan. Apparently, I guess he says relatives from South Bend love you. And then he said that apparently you ran past him in the stairwell with the gold medal around your neck. So kind of funny there. Now, AD, real quick, is there like a special place you keep the gold medal? Like, is it just out? Is it in like a safe or?
I think my mother has it. My mother has a gold medal.
Okay.
I just talked to Tom Ponton the other day. I'm about to get a Hall of Fame gallery in my house. It's going to be pretty impressive. I'm getting all the stuff together. So one day I think I have it on display here.
That'd be awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So we'll go to Conrad Katulski. If you want to unmute your mic.
Hey, AD, how you doing, buddy?
How you doing?
A lot of you Stags don't know, but AD and I are referee together, and it's pretty amazing that after almost 40 years, two DeMatha guys can.
What happened to the Suns last night? I didn't hear from you.
Yeah, they went down
2-2.
Yeah.
I told you when you're in the playoffs, when you go home, you feel a lot better than you do on the road. So when the Suns was up 2-0 and everybody said they don't get blown out, they did what they supposed to do. They won their first two games at home, and the Bucks won their first two games at home. So it's the best out of three now.
Yep. Real quick story about AD and myself. We were refereeing at Sherwood, and one of the coaches on the other team was complaining that AD was letting a lot of physical stuff go on underneath the basket. And AD comes over to me and says, "Hey, what'd that guy want?" I said, that coach says you're letting too much stuff going on under the basket. And he says, "You don't call anything. I got it." And I said, "Okay." So a little bit later in the game, the coach says, "Hey, Mr. Ref, is that Adrian Dantley?" I said, "Yeah, it is." He said, "Did I screw up?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Am I not going to get any more calls?" And I said, "I don't think so." But it's great to referee with a Hall of Famer. More importantly, a DeMatha guy. AD is the epitome of a DeMatha guy. We text each other a lot, and AD was the guy I really looked up to when I was in grade school. And AD, it's great to referee with you, buddy.
All right. Be talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Play Saturday, right?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Hey, Conrad, thanks for your question. AD, our next question is from Tom Sane, and he's asking this question on behalf of Buzz O'Connell. So, Tom, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah. Hey, AD, how you doing, man? Hey, so Buzzy wanted me to ask this question. Go figure. Hey, was he the best point guard you ever played with?
I like Buzzy. He passed me the ball all the time.
Yeah, and he always said once he did it, he'd never say it back.
Well, we had two great point guards when I was at DeMatha. We had Kenny Roy, and Buzzy started some, and I think he backed Kenny Roy. So we had two guards who ran Morgan's offense to a T, and that was the reason why we was pretty successful, because of the point guard play of Kenny Roy and Buzzy. So good guy, and he's living in Florida now, living the life, I guess. I saw him, and he came to DC a couple years ago. Yeah, Morgan's funeral. So great guy.
AD, next question from Henry Davis. He asked if Austin Carr had any influence on you going to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think he had big influence on me when I was a youngster, 10th grader. Austin Carr, he probably would have been, one of the top 5 greatest college players to ever play the game. People don't know that, but I mean, he was getting, he was averaging astronomical numbers. Great player, got into the NBA, started being a vegetarian, started having feet problems, bone problems, and his career never blossomed the way he was when he was at high school, at Mackin High School and at Notre Dame.
AD, our next question is from James Dominus. James, I hope I pronounced your last name right, but you can go ahead and unmute your mic. If James, you're able to unmute your mic. If not, we'll try to get back to you, James, your question. We got another question here from John Farrell.
Adrian, is there any particular moment or any conversation that stands out with Morgan that you'll always remember more than anything else?
Well, I tell you what, one thing about Morgan was, it's amazing how when I was a freshman, and all the guys used to get together early in the morning and start asking questions. What question is he going to ask on the quiz? We would study the night before, study that morning. We go to class and we won't even have a quiz. It was amazing how he knew when we didn't study and have a quiz, and when we did study, we didn't have a quiz. That's what used to get me mad at him all the time. But he used to. That's what I remember most about him. That's what all the classmates remember about him. But the thing about Morgan, not only did the players love him, the student body loved him. They love Morgan, and that was. I always wanted to be successful when I took his tests. When I took his quizzes, I said I gotta do real well. This is my coach, so I used to get that pressure all the time from him. But I miss him. He was like a father figure to me, and I think about him all the time. So great person.
AD, before we get into Emmanuel Williams, Emmanuel, you'll have the next question. I got a 2-part question for you. So first part, who is your favorite NBA player that you ever played with? And then the other side of that, who is like the best guy that you ever gone up against? Or maybe you see him on the schedule, see the team on the schedule, and like, damn, I got to play that guy. Is there kind of someone that sticks out?
Well, it wasn't too many nights that I didn't sleep well because everybody I played against was a great player. At that time when I played, the small forwards, unbelievable. Majority of them are in the Hall of Fame, you know. So, I had, Dr. J, you had English, both of those guys Hall of Famer. Bernard King, Bobby Danger just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. Everybody I played against, was they could get 30 on you if you wasn't ready to play, So a lot of great players. As far as my best teammate that I played with a lot of great guys, a lot of great players. A guy that I played real well with and liked and who kind of idolized me a little bit was Joe Dumas from Detroit. But, guy who I learned a lot from was a guy by the name of Ron Boone. He was a great player in the ABA. He was with me in the Lakers. So, but I played with a lot of great players. Bob McAdoo, Hall of Famer when I was at Buffalo. Kareem, I played with him 3 years. I remember I was a young guy, my second year in league, I played with Kareem and he was supposed to be a Muslim. And one day I was sitting next to him. I said, "Hey man, I thought you was a Muslim. You're not supposed to eat hot dogs, He said, "This is a beef hot dog. This is not pork hot dog." So everybody's looking at me like I was crazy, because they was afraid to, sit next to him on the airplane. He was he sat next to me. I sat next to him on the airplane. So that I remember that about him. So, but I played with a lot of great players.
Yeah. Would Kareem? I know you weren't part of the Power Memorial game, AD, but would he ever bring up that game to you?
Oh yeah, he always bring it up. He always like, yeah, what DeMatha doing? I can't stand them. Him and Bill Walton. Every time I see Bill Walton, he like, oh, Notre Dame's terrible. We broke, we broke their 88 game winning streak when he was at UCLA. So whenever I see them, the first thing they mention is DeMatha and Notre Dame breaking, Bill Walton breaking their 88 game winning streak.
That's awesome, man. That's terrific. So we'll go to, thanks, AD. We'll go to Emmanuel Williams. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yes, sir. Hey, AD, my question was initially, who would be your best player in the DC metropolitan area, in your opinion? But as I was thinking, if you could give me, of course, the best player out of the area, as well as your top 5 out of the area.
Well, I would say the top 5 is probably, probably Durant, Elgin Baylor, Dave Bing, Austin Carr, Grant Hill. Those are 5 great players that came from the area. But you have a lot of great players that come from there. I mean, they did a story on Prince George's County of all the players from the area getting drafted number 1. Grant, folks from DeMatha. So you got a lot of great players. You had a lot of great players in their areas that were pretty good. But I would say the number 1 player would probably be Elgin Baylor. A lot of young people don't know about him. You get the younger generation, they don't know anything about the older players that play. I mean, every time you pick the top 5 of all time, they don't even pick Jabbar. So that tells you something right there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emmanuel, for your question. AD, next question here is from Daniel Robson. So go ahead, Daniel. Daniel Robson, we'll give you one last shot here.
If not, Connor, you can ask it for him if you want to read it.
AD, so Daniel's question was, obviously, and we've kind of gone out about it today, we hear a lot about basketball from you at DeMatha, but what was school like for you? And Daniel asks, what were the teachers who influenced you the most? Did you have a favorite teacher?
Well, like I said before, Morgan and Buck Offit, everybody was intimidated by them, but it was great teachers at DeMatha. That's one thing about it. They cared about you. You had to study hard. If you didn't study hard, if you didn't do real well, they would get on you. I can remember when Mr. Moreland was there, he would always be on me all the time. You know, if I might have been a little late for school, he was there, right there on top of me, you know, getting on me. So, you know, I had a lot of great influence with a lot of teachers, but, you know, Morgan and Buck, those are guys that, you know, everybody always talked about.
You guys are definitely legends right there. We'll go with Sean Holly. A few more questions here, AD. We'll wrap it up. Sean Holly, if you want to go ahead.
Hey, AD, what's happening, man? I stuck in here on this.
That was back in grade school, though, but go ahead.
But actually, it's a good segue to be talking about teachers. I'm sure none of them were as hard as you, as my dad was on you in elementary school. But I did have a question that was more tied to a Providence College guy, Ernie D in Buffalo. What was Ernie D like as a teammate?
Ernie D was a great player. It was funny that when I got there, all the players, let's say majority of them, all the players were jealous of Ernie D because he was the highest paid player on the team. And, you know, people felt like he shouldn't be the, you know, I think he might have been he was the highest paid player in the league, I think, at one time. And it would always wonder why the guys were jealous of him because, you know, but I got along with him great. He was my next door neighbor. He always invited me over his house for, you know, Thanksgiving, and I started learning more about the Italian family and so forth. And he used to always tell me, he said, Adrian, you get open, I'll pass you the ball. So that's all I did was move without the ball. Whenever I moved without the ball, I would get a layup or I'd get a 10-footer or 15-footer, but great guy. I loved him and, you know, great guy. And speaking of teachers, this guy's dad was like a father figure to me. And I had him in my 4th grade year and my 6th grade year at Monroe Elementary. And that's where I learned the discipline from. I was the first guy that got hit by a paddle. He had a special paddle for me. It had like 12 holes in it. So whenever I got in trouble, he would just bend me over in front of the classroom and hit me with that paddle. So that's where I first learned my discipline from Sean Holly's daddy, you know, Mr. Holly. So it's good to see you, and I'll be talking to you.
All right. Thank you, AD. Much love.
Take care.
Thanks, Sean, for your question. Adrian, you've talked a little bit about your time at DeMatha. What would you say is a favorite memory or two from your 4 years at DeMatha?
Oh, man, I don't remember that. I mean, I tell you one thing, like I said, I probably wouldn't be here today had I not, you know, chose DeMatha. You know, great student body. You know, always have good, you know, good fond memories of DeMatha. And you know, one thing I liked about DeMatha, everybody was the same. It was equal. You know, we wore the same blue sports coat and the burgundy sport coat and the gray slacks and so forth. So, you know, it's great school. You know. I always see parents all the time. They come up to me and they talk about DeMatha, and I say, you know what the tuition was when I went there? I say it was $400. You know, so great place.
It's a little more expensive these days, AD. That's it's kind of cheap back then, but I guess it's all relative. But I think your buddy Tom Ponton has a question for you here. TP.
So AD, can you just tell us a little bit about the championship game of the Olympics, the gold medal game, or the game before that? I thought maybe you got elbowed or something in the game against Yugoslavia. And do you also remember the medal ceremony, you know, after that?
I think when we played in the Olympic teams, we wanted to play the Russians. You know, Russians beat the American team in '72. They had like 7 opportunities to take the ball out of bounds, and finally they scored on the 6th time or the 7th time. So we wanted to play them. They got upset by Yugoslavia. Was it? Yeah, Yugoslavia. And we ended up playing them. I had like 30 points that game. I caught an elbow in the eye around the first half, and end up returning. We end up winning the game, and we end up, we won the gold medal. So we was pretty happy. Everybody was pretty high, pretty happy. And I remember that was the first time I met Wilt Chamberlain. Right before the game, he came into our locker room, and he said, "Yeah, where's this guy, Adrian Dantley, AD? I heard he got moves like me. I want to meet him." So I met him, shook his hand. I didn't think I was be able to play because he almost broke my hand. That's how strong he was. But that's when I met Wilt Chamberlain, and we went out there and we had a pretty successful game and ended up winning the gold medal.
But AD, Sugar Ray Leonard had his coming out party out there in Montreal too, and of course he's from Prince George's County. I assume you met him out there, or yeah.
Yeah, I met him in the village in Canada, and the one thing that I enjoyed about the Olympics was I would always walk around and see who I would go and see what the weightlifters, what they ate. They would be eating like 5 steaks and 5 baked potatoes. And then I would go and look at Nidia Comaneci and the gymnasts. All they ate was yogurt and lettuce and so forth. So it was pretty interesting to see all the, great athletes there. And Bruce Jenner was there. I would be following him around, see what he was eating at the cafeteria. So, the Spinks brothers, Leon Spinks, he was there at the Olympics. And it was a great time.
Thanks, TP. I got one more. Final question here, AD. From Chris McMains has another question for you, and then we'll wrap it up, AD. Go ahead, Chris.
Adrian, this has been great. Thank you. I was just reading that when you left Notre Dame after your junior year, you were only 6 hours short of getting your degree. So I was wondering, how did you get so far ahead? Did you take a lot of summer school classes? And I commend you for playing high-level basketball and staying up on your studies and eventually graduating. Thank you.
I would advise any athlete or any student body, if they can go to summer school, go to summer school. I went to summer school every summer that I was at Notre Dame. And it was very boring there. It was nobody on campus. It might have been like, 20 students on campus or 30 students on campus. And it might have been like 6 people in the classroom taking the summer courses. So that's how I stayed ahead. I took my courses in the summer. And when all the guys would come back to school, I would be sitting on the sidewalk and I'd be saying, "Where you going?" "Oh, we're going to this class. We're ready to take this class." I said, "Oh man, I did that this past summer. Good luck. So I'm taking it easy. So I didn't have that pressure on me during the school year, not to worrying about dropping the course or anything, because I was always game planning to stay ahead of the game. So every summer, I would take 9 hours, and it was tough. It was tough. Everybody was having a good time, at home, but I had a good time during the year. I didn't have that pressure on me. So that's why I went to summer school, and that's why I got ahead. So, and then when my end of my rookie year at Notre Dame, that's when I graduated, after my rookie year playing in the NBA.
Thanks, Chris. Now, as we conclude, AD, obviously just want to say thank you so much. We talk about the DeMatha Brotherhood, and us DeMatha Stags are very proud, to be part of that brotherhood. We always say one DeMatha, there's no other high school like it. I know you said it was a big part of your life, attending DeMatha. So just for you, like what does DeMatha mean to you? And kind of how do we stand out from other high schools in the country, in your opinion? Like, what do we do different?
Well, I think you have a lot of togetherness, at DeMatha. Everybody seemed like they care about each other. Nobody's uppity. We all seem like, when I was there, it was like everybody was equal, and everybody, always was trying to help, the classmate it was a family there. And I never had any problems when I was at DeMatha. I never had any, any problems at all. And I think most of the students pretty much didn't have any problems at all. We would always talk, and I never heard any bad things about the faculty or anything at DeMatha. So it's a great place.
Well, thank you so much again, AD. It was a great honor and pleasure getting to chat with you and hearing all your wonderful stories. Thank you to everyone on the forum again for asking your terrific questions. Goes without saying, AD, but you're true DeMatha legend, true basketball legend, and we're very proud to call you a Stag and fellow alumni. So, AD, we'll try to get you to coach a varsity game or to ref a varsity game here one of these days, man. We'd love to have you on the court there, but
they won't let me do it. The commissioner won't let me do it.
we gotta make it happen. But until then, guys, thank you. We'll be back. Obviously, we're gonna start doing these Zoom hours once a month, so we'll see everyone back again in August. Until then, please stay safe. And last thing, obviously, ask for everyone's support of the Fund for DeMatha. The fund is critical to the school in support of our ongoing mission of educating faith-filled gentlemen and scholars. You can always give online at www.dematha.org. So thank you so much, AD. You are the man. Appreciate you taking the time out today.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one. One DeMatha.